I can't lie, guys, Apple is getting kind of boring. It's kind of like they're releasing the same thing over and over and over again. It's been 16 years since their last hero product, the iPhone, and it's really the same thing as when it first started, just with a few updates, a bigger screen, and a notch. But let's take it way back, guys, back to when I was a 15-year-old teenager in high school living my best life. I can't lie, it was my worst life still. I was going around teaching people's kids the piano, and your boy was finally starting to make bank. So finally, I could afford the holy grail of phones, the iPhone. I checked out the website for 3.co.uk and it said £24 a month for an iPhone 5. I was like, well, that's only 2 piano lessons at a time. I could afford that easy. So I bought it. And what was new about this iPhone 5 compared to the previous models was that it had one more row of icons. The screen was slightly bigger, and that was enough to go around to my friends and say, I've got a better iPhone than you. And that's really a trending topic with Apple fanboys. When we buy a new iPhone, we want to say to all the people with the older iPhones, hey, my iPhone's better than yours. And if we can't say that, we feel kind of like empty inside. Like, what's the point of buying an iPhone if you can't tell that my one's better than yours? 2 years later, the iPhone 6 came out. And now they're selling a plus size version with an even bigger screen, which made my friends say, wow, your iPhone's kind of big still. 2 years later from then, the iPhone 7 Plus came out. And what's cool about this phone was that it had 2 cameras. Oh my God, 2 cameras, a normal one and a telephoto one. And guys, that changed the game, because when I showed my friends my new camera, I said, look at me, bro. I can switch lens in under a second. At this point in time, Apple was really innovating. Things were moving fast. The phones were getting thinner and thinner and thinner. The battery life was getting longer and longer and longer. And I was a pretty pleased customer. Apple was doing their thing, and I was happy to pay their rapidly increasing prices for their iPhones. By this point, I was now paying about £60 a month. You know, Apple got me good on that drug. They started me in like, come in bro, cheap prices, £24 a month, and you're into the holy grail of best iPhones. 2 years later, they came out with the iPhone XS Max. And this one, I was finally with the cool boys. No more home button there, guys. I had that little notch, and I was now part of the bad boys club. My life was on a high. I was feeling special. I was feeling part of the crowd, because when I saw those people that still sported iPhones with a home button, I was like, you guys must be living in poverty. You low-life scumbags. Home button? I don't do a home button no more. I swipe up. 2020 came and I wanted to upgrade my iPhone, but at this time it was now coronavirus, guys, and your boy was out of work. Every single one of my piano students left almost instantly because Boris Johnson said, stay at home. I quickly realized that my music career was never coming back anytime soon, so I pivoted and started a new business. And you know, your boy wasn't really in the best position to upgrade to the latest iPhone. So I kept my iPhone XS Max for 3 years, guys. This was a beautiful phone and it did me well, guys. 3 years, the first time I ever kept an iPhone for more than 2 years. At this point now, the iPhone 13 Pro Max now came out, the next bad boy. I decided to keep both phones. One for business, Hezron Tech Productions out here, baby, this is how we be moving, and one for my personal life, so I could easily switch off my phone and only talk to my friends. This was the turning point in Apple's history where literally nothing was really changing. There was little change with the previous iPhone before it, the iPhone 12. The biggest thing about this new iPhone compared to the last one was that the notch was slightly smaller than the iPhone 12, and that was their big selling point. So at this point I was like, you know what? I think my days of upgrading iPhones are kind of done. I was pretty content with my 2 iPhones, but then as the iPhone 15 was about to release, this iPhone XS Max started to bug out. Like certain letters on the keyboard wouldn't work, certain places on the touchscreen just wasn't responding, and I would not have upgraded to my beautiful iPhone 15 Pro if it wasn't for the fact that, hey, my iPhone XS Max was dying. It died a slow death of dementia, but literally it lasted until about a week before the iPhone came out, and I had to buy this iPhone 15. All I get in this new iPhone 15 Pro Max is, a little button, which replaces the ringer button, a more zoomed camera lens, which is now 5 times 120mm optical zoom. I feel a bit more cooler now because I've got a little peel as my notch now. There's a little cutout pill there, guys, which is apparently a little bit different than, the notch. But you can see as time has gone along, Apple has stopped innovating. I remember the times with each new iPhone, they would say, we're now 20% thinner. There's now another 30% battery increase. There's a whole new bigger screen. These would be these big monumental changes with the next iPhone. But nowadays, it's like these little small jumps, which means really the iPhone is now at its final steps, guys. This is the end. With all new technology, there's always a semicircle of growth. It goes up, wow, this is so interesting. My God, guys, technology is improving. Then, after a while, it stagnates because there's nothing much more you can do with it, guys. And the truth is, guys, I knew this was gonna happen because the only reason why Apple is as successful as it is because of Steve Jobs. And now Steve Jobs isn't here, the innovation will stop. There's no two ways about it. Tim Cook's a lovely guy, I rate what he's doing as CEO, he's trying his best, but there was something truly magical about Steve Jobs, which no one, and I mean no one, on this planet will be ever able to replicate. A lot of people don't know this, but Steve Jobs was actually kicked out of his own company, Apple, in 1985. The big execs and the people on the board thought, Steve Jobs is now a liability, he's too all over the place, let's get rid of him. You know what happened, guys? Apple started to lower and lower and lower in sales, and Apple was on a big decline. There was no new products because without the genius of Steve Jobs, nothing was really happening. There was no innovation.
Well, Apple was about 90 days away from going bankrupt back then, in the early days, and it was much worse than I thought when I went back initially.
Steve Jobs came back in 1997, and the next big hero product they made was the iPod, and then bang, Apple was a success again. Then he made the iPhone, the iPad, the Apple Watch, and then he sadly died, guys. Apple was on its peak. And the truth is, because Apple takes years to conduct its R&D, research and development, they're really still using Steve Jobs' legacy to create these new products. All these products that we have now, like the Apple Watch, the AirPods, all of these things were likely thought of when Steve Jobs was still there. But I think we're now hitting the stage where actually Steve Jobs' latest ideas are no longer in the picture. We've moved on from them. And I don't think Apple is ever gonna hit the heights of what they had with Steve Jobs ever again. Apple's next new product is the Apple Vision One. And yes, guys, it does look really, really, really good. A lot of people complain that this thing's expensive, but remember, it's the Pro version. The minimum price for the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is meant for professionals like me, costs like £2,500. So the fact that they're starting at £3,000 or thereabouts for the Apple Vision Pro is nothing. All the Apple fanboys are gonna go crazy for this. This is completely new, it's fresh, it's something different, and if it's only £400 more than my MacBook, which I've got, my MacBook costs £3,000, yes, I'm gonna buy one. However, do I see this being a mass market product like the iPod or the iPhone? No, those products were highly mobile. You could take them wherever you went. But with the Apple Vision Pro, I don't really see a world where everyone's gonna be walking around with these big goggles on their head non-stop. It's not gonna be able to get that viralability. Is that a word? Viralability. Unfortunately, the hero product will remain with the iPhone at this time. The convenience of it is too amazing for you to wear these goggles non-stop. They could put a SIM card in the Apple Vision One Pro and make it be able to replace your iPhone completely. Theoretically, it's possible, but we're just not there yet because the thing is too big and heavy. We are now at the point where consumers don't feel the need to upgrade the iPhone every single 2 years. I can really see myself having my iPhone 15 Pro Max for at least 5 years. I mean, what more can they do to it? Unless they added 10 more hours of battery life, I'm not upgrading. And the prices are just too expensive now. On my iPhone 13 Pro Max contract, I was paying £100 £100 a month. This thing isn't turning into some sort of upmarket product. This is turning into a product only for the wealthy, mate. £100 a month for an iPhone. I mean, if you've got 5 kids and a wife, and they all want an iPhone 15 Pro Max, what's that? £600, £700 plus you? This is, what the hell is going on? It's not that Apple aren't doing things well. Apple is running their business exceedingly well, better than I could ever run a business. But the truth is, without Steve Jobs' spark, that visionary mind, that mind that just can't be replaced, that thirst for knowledge and creativity and genius, Apple is going to slow down. You know, there was once a point where Kodak was the biggest company in photography. There was once a point where Blockbuster was the biggest movie rental company. But things change. And although Apple is so huge right now, even Rome failed. Yes, it did take quite a long time, but Rome did eventually fall. And I think this is the stage we're at with Apple. This is the Hezron Springer Show.